everyone, and welcome to our spiritual discussion for today, a new look on empathy. So I am getting on here a little bit earlier simply because I want to make sure that the notification goes out there and that I have the ability to share it out so everyone can get in on our spiritual discussion. So when it comes to spiritual discussions, this is all about us being able to discuss, being able to exchange ideas. And that's all I'm really doing. I am just kind of presenting to you guys my ideas, what I have come to. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited about this tonight. I cannot wait to jump into our topic, this new look on empathy from A Course in Miracles perception. It's going to be great. And it actually, when I started reading this and started comprehending it, I was amazed. I was like, wow, this is so great. This is so wonderful. This is going to help so many different people, to be able to look at empathy in this, brand new way. So I'm super excited to share all of this with you. So of course, I'll invite you guys, if you want to share, you're more than welcome to. You guys can share this out to your page or to your own personal pages. Good evening, Miss Cynthia. Hello, Helena. Hi, Miss Shirley. Hello, let's see, Natasha? Hope I said that right. Hi, Corey. Thanks for joining. Hello, everybody that is joining and coming on. Once again, if you would like to share, you are more than welcome to. Remember, this is a spiritual discussion. It is between you and I. This isn't for free readings. This is just a spiritual discussion, a new way at looking at empathy. And that's what we are doing. Once again, not for free readings. Hi, Ron. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. So like I said, I'm just sharing this out to my groups as well. And that's what I'm doing right now. Just sharing this out. And I invite you guys to, of course, do the same. The good thing is that now I can share it from my laptop. It's a little bit faster. It's not like 100% faster, but it's a little bit faster. So with that, before we get into the topic, remember, I'm just exchanging my ideas. If something comes up for you as I am talking or as I'm, going through the talk, please feel free to type your question about the topic. And I want to be very clear about that we are typing in our questions about the topic that we are talking about tonight. Hi, Deanne. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. Cynthia, thanks so much for putting this on your page. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. And so if you have questions that come up for you, please feel free to put them in the comments. And I will do my very best to answer them to the best of my ability. And like I said, I'm just sharing this out to a few groups. And I thank those of you who are also sharing this out and sharing it to your pages. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Where is that? There it is. So, what I want to do before we get into the meat of our conversation is I want to talk about another topic that's actually going to tie in to all of this. And it's actually, from A Course in Miracles. And what the Course in Miracles tells us about words. So it says, words are nothing more than symbols twice removed from reality. Okay? And so just the way that I have begun to translate that for myself is simply the first reason that it's twice removed. Number one, we are all one. We do not need necessarily words to communicate. Now, we only believe that we do because we believe in separation. We believe that you're over there, I'm over here. We believe that I'm in this body, you're in that body. That I have a private mind and you have a private mind. And that's one reason that we believe that we need words to facilitate, a communication. But in truth, we're all one. We're all connected. We don't really need words. And that is actually what I believe empathy is. Empathy is our ability to communicate with each other without words. Now, there, I think, has been some distortions when it comes to empathy. Because number one, I am not a person who believes in hierarchies or a person who believes in putting things into necessary boxes and saying, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this, so forth and so on. Because that can actually lead, so, let's say there are emotional empaths, there's plant empaths, there's animal empath, there's like society empaths, there's, like mirror empaths. I mean, there's a whole plethora of empaths. But here's the thing. We're all empaths. Now, if you want to label yourself a certain one, that's absolutely fine. Not a problem. You can do that. But what I want to encourage you to not do is hold that over someone else, which is all too often actually what tends to happen. Is we tend to, when it comes to empathy, we tend to kind of use that one or two ways. We, number one, use it to kind of pump up our own spiritual egos. Everyone has done it at one point or another, and it's nothing bad about it. It happens. It's just about you catching yourself. And then, because it's almost like, well, I'm so sensitive, meaning I'm so special. I'm more special than you because I feel more than you. I take on more than you. We don't need to go into those extremes. That's not where we necessarily want to go with this. What we do want to realize is that everyone has that same capacity that we do. Some people may just be a little bit more in tune with it than we are. So we don't want to put it as something special and saying, well, I'm the only one who feels this way, or I'm the only one that can do it. We want to step away from that. That's not where we want to go with this. Everyone is empathic in their own way. So we don't need to try to specialize ourselves. Number two, the reason that, we come in with empathy, all too often, one of the negative standpoints that we believe is, empaths are people who can feel others' emotions and have to take them on. Hi, Nancy. Have to take them on and have to transmute negative energy within their area. Okay, that's kind of like the general, and that's a very, very general way of looking at empaths and empathy. And that's kind of what has been the ongoing story, and so when empaths or an empathic person enters into a situation and they start to feel those negative emotions, which is completely natural. No one is telling you that you can't feel. No one is telling you that your feelings are invalid. But what I do want to invite you to do is think of it like this. And this was so beautiful. When I read this, I highlighted it. I said, wow. I was like, I love this. It says to emphasize does not mean to join in suffering, for that is what you must refuse. That is the ego's interpretation of empathy, and it is always used in a form of a special relationship in which the suffering is shared. Now, we don't want to share suffering. Now, you may think, oh, well, then you're not being an empath. You're not sharing in someone's suffering. You're not being a real empath. No. To be an empath does mean that you feel that other person's emotion. You can feel it. You can be in their shoes. But it does not mean that you have to join in it. It does not mean that you have to allow it to affect you. It does not mean that it is your responsibility, your job, to take that person's emotion and handle it for them. And because if you do, think about this. That person is going through a situation. And that situation, that emotion that's coming up for them, it may actually be the one thing that's going to lead them into a breakthrough. of some kind. We don't know the breakthrough, but it may be leading them to a breakthrough. It's a stepping stone. So when you taking it from them, you transmuting it for them, you taking it on, what you're actually doing is you're not doing a service to them or to yourself. You're actually doing a disservice to both because you are joining in their suffering. What we want to do instead of joining in their suffering is we want to move to compassion. Now you may be asking yourself, well, Ron, that sounds really great in theory, but how do I do that? And I'm all, excuse me, I'm all about those practical tools. So one way that we can begin to look at this is that when we see someone suffering, we move into compassion simply by recognizing, yes, they are hurting. Yes, they are sad. Yes, they are suffering. But I want to be the presence of the alternative. Okay, let's think about that for a moment. So yes, I can feel that person is hurting. But instead of going into that hurt with them, instead of really kind of diving in there and joining in their suffering, instead we move to this point of compassion and say, I see that you are suffering, but I love you anyway, and I'm going to be the presence of the alternative. I'm going to be able to definitely know what you're feeling, know what you're going through, and which is going to allow me to be even more compassionate towards you. And compassion does not mean necessarily treating someone like a baby. It doesn't mean treating them like they are a doll. It doesn't mean treating them that they are made of glass. It does mean that you, like I said, you see their suffering and you see the light in them beyond that suffering. That's why in the Course it says we must refuse that. We have to refuse that and say, you know what? I see that you're suffering. I know that you're going through a hard time, but I know this is not the truth. I know the truth of you is that you are love, that you are light, that you are joy, that you are happiness. I know this to be the truth above all else. And that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm not focusing on, oh man, I have to take all of your negative emotions, or I have to take on all of this stuff for you. No. We instead move to that energy of compassion. And actually, the Course has a great way of telling us how to do that as well. And it says, basically, that we need to not use empathy to make the past real or to perpetuate it. We step gently aside and let the healing be done for you, keeping but one thought in your mind, and do not lose sight of it. However tempted you may be to judge any situation, which we all get that. We all want to judge a situation. We all want to look at it through our own perceptual lens and be like, well, obviously this is what's happening. When in fact, we're just seeing it from our perspective. We don't necessarily know or see what's really happening. And it then tells us that we have to be determined, so that we do not judge the situation, and to determine your response by judging it. Focus your mind only on this. And this was so wonderful. Hi, Miss Karen. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. Is I am not alone, and I would not intrude the past upon my guest. Now, you may be asking, well, who's my guest? You can call it your angels. You can call it your intuition. You can call it your inner guidance. You can call it whatever you want. But it is that divine spark within you. You're not going to intrude the past, your judgment onto that situation, or onto that perception of, spirit, and saying, well, spirit sees it this way. Spirit sees it far beyond what we could ever really realize. And it says, I have invited him and he is here. Now it does use the word he and him. The Course does use it basically uses the terminology of he. It does not say she, it doesn't say them, it just uses one, because the Course is about non-dualism and it is about oneness. So whenever it says he or him, it is always speaking about you. Even if you are in a female body, it's still talking to you. It just uses the word him. So don't get caught up on that symbol of him. because it's talking about you. It just uses him. I need do nothing except not interfere. That's so important. So important to realize is that it's not our job to interfere. Our job is to be the presence of the alternative. Our job is to not go into suffering. Fun fact, use he as our she. Get it? LOL. And let's see. Fun fact, Phil. Oh my goodness, I cannot even, for whatever reason, I'm sitting there having the hardest time with that word. Uses he as our she. Get it? LOL. So that is really what's happening is we are interfering. It's not that you ignore someone's suffering. It's not that you just play a blind eye to it and try to turn it off. And, oh, okay, I see. But you don't turn it off. What it is, it's fine. I think I get the general gist of what you're saying. But you instead take that step back, become the presence of the alternative, become, you become that vessel for the divine, which is within you and always part of you, to speak through you. When you're in suffering, you can't hear your inner guidance. When you are suffering with someone else, you can't hear it. And it's not because, you're at a low vibration or anything like that. It's because you are focused on fear, not on love. Now, it doesn't mean that the divine doesn't hear you. It just means you can't necessarily hear it because you are so focused on darkness that you cannot see any beacon of light. That's it. That's all that is. And so this is why we have to look at empathy in a completely 365-degree new way. Instead of it being about joining in suffering. It's not about joining in suffering. It's about refusing suffering. I see, yes, my physical eyes, my body, my senses tell me that you are in pain. But I don't need to go into that pain with you. I don't need to take that pain from you. What I do need to do is refuse it by seeing the light within you. And by not interfering in the way of saying, oh, I'm going to judge this. Like it said, we need to stay away from that temptation of, oh, I need to take this from you because you can't handle it. We don't know what people can handle. We don't know. Our job is just to be the presence of the alternative and not join in the suffering, which is all too often what happens with empathy. I can tell you from one of my own personal experiences is when I was working at the daycare and I had a parent. She seemed absolutely, not super fine, but she seemed okay. And, a little down. But then she handed me her daughter and, we just kind of touched hands real quick. And all of a sudden, this weight, it was just whoof, like something had hit me. And I was like, whoa. And this sadness, this just deep ache in my heart just started. I wanted to cry and I was like, whoa, what is this? What is happening? I was like, okay. And at that point, I hadn't studied A Course in Miracles. I didn't know what was happening. I did know to ask, is this mine? And my immediate response was, no, this isn't yours. And so I then realized that after that, because then my director came in and she was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that, if this child is acting a little bit off, it's because, they just recently had a death of, a grandparent. So just be aware of that. Mom's really upset because it was, mom's dad. And I was like, okay, thanks so much for letting me know, and so forth and so on. But in that moment, yes, her emotion was there. It's not that she was projecting it. It's not that she wanted me to feel it. It was just she was just there in that. Now, I could have chosen to, maybe inadvertently, I was so open to it that I just sucked it in. Very well could have been a possibility. But what I could have done instead is when that oof hit me, instead of maybe going into it, instead of joining in that suffering, instead of, anything like that, I could have been like, okay, number one, asking that important question, is this mine? No, it's not. Okay. I want to move into compassion. How can I move into compassion, not only for this person, but for myself? What action, what thought can I begin to think? And that's really asking Spirit, being like, Spirit, show me. Show me what it is that I can do to be of service, to be in compassion and not join in the suffering. Yes, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Yes, it was right there in my heart. But instead of going, into the whole drama or into the situation, let me take this step back and, Spirit, guide me, use me, move me in all ways. Our job is to be the presence of the alternative, and it's not to join in the suffering. Exactly, Helena. That's not our job at all. We are just there to be that presence and to be that light and to not place our judgment on the situation, because that's all too often what we do. Oh, I have to go do this. And we even use it when we go into public. Like when, empaths say, I can't go into public because, everyone's energies hit me, or this all hits me and I can't do it. And then you just kind of lock yourself away. Well, that's going back to that special relationship and saying, well, I'm so special that I can't go outside. I'm more sensitive than anyone else. Once again, we don't know what other people are going through or what other people can feel. We don't know that. We have no idea. And it's just like not judging someone or a situation based on a past perception. That's why it says in that little prayer, I would not intrude the past upon my guest. Instead of being like, well, this is a seedy part of town, or instead of, they are always so negative. Let's withdraw our judgment. Maybe, yes, you're feeling some negativity, but instead of saying, oh, well, I can't go there because it's negative, you are the presence of the alternative. Be that presence. Be that light. And to be the light, to be the presence, doesn't mean that you fix it. It doesn't mean that you even do anything. You're simply there as the presence and not allowing yourself to necessarily go into the negativity, go into the suffering with the other people. You are the shining light. That is what you are. And that is what we have to step into. It's not about hiding in a corner or hiding in your room or hiding at all. It's about standing up and being that presence and not allowing your preconceptions about, old things that happened to influence you in this now moment, which is all too often what happens. So I want to, once again, to emphasize, or to basically, to be an empath does not mean to join in suffering, for that is what you must refuse to understand. That is the ego's interpretation of empathy, and it always uses the form of special relationships in which the suffering is shared. The capacity to empathize is very useful to the spirit, provided you let him use it his way. His way is very different. His way is very different. So true for me, bottling up feelings, exploding. Right, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So we have to let spirit, really guide it. And it says, he does not understand suffering and would not have you teach it, and would not have you teach it. It is not understandable. When he relates through your thoughts, he does not relate through your ego to another ego. He does not join in pain, understanding that healing pain is not accomplished by delusional attempts to enter into it and lighten it by sharing the delusion. Right there, he's basically just said exactly what we just talked about, which is you don't heal pain by going into the delusion with someone. You heal by being that presence of the alternative and not going into it with them. because that's not going to help them. And that's not going to help you. I understand that there may be a predilection, maybe there's this part of you that wants to go over there and wants to, take it from them, fix it. That's not your job. Your job is to be the presence of the alternative. Now, you may be guided to say something. You may be guided to do something. But you have to ask first and not let your, first reaction be from a past perception, which is all too often what we do. We react instead of respond. Response is when you take a minute, you take a moment to ask, Spirit, what would you have me do? And that's actually one of the things we talk about in my 8 weeks of guidance course that is going to be starting on February 10th, is how we can begin to really get in touch with our own inner guidance. How do we tell the difference between what is wishful thinking and what is an actual intuitive thought? And we get into that in depth. It's actually one of our weeks where we actually really get to talk about that and really get to discuss it over Zoom. And, that's when people get to, we're in a small group or you're an individual who just wants to do it. And we have an in-depth discussion. And so, but that's what we have to do. We have to really be there in that moment and say, okay, here's empathy. I used to see empathy as joining with another to take their pain, to do this, to do that. I now realize that that is not helpful. That's not helpful to them. That's not helpful to me. I now realize that I cannot be a facilitator of healing by joining in the delusion of pain or suffering. That's not going to heal them. That's an illusion trying to heal an illusion. That's not going to help. What is going to help is you staying that observer, that compassionate observer, and being the presence of the alternative. Hi, Amanda. Thanks for joining. So that's where we want to be with this, is I am the presence of the alternative. I'm so happy that you got to catch me live, too. I haven't seen you. I've seen all your wonderful posts. I've seen all your beautiful pictures. I just haven't seen you. Also, I haven't been live a whole awful lot. I've been live on my ACIM support group. We're on actually lesson 11. I go live every morning at 8 and evenings at 8. But that's where we really have to be with this. Healing does not happen by joining in the delusion of pain or joining in the delusion of, I have to take this so you will heal. No, it's not how we do this. We are the presence of the alternative. We say, yes, I see that you are suffering, but I see that this suffering is not the truth of you. I see that this too shall pass. And that's how we can be compassionate and empathetic and be that empathic self that you are by being that presence of the alternative, not going into it with them, being that light and being willing to see them differently through those eyes of compassion, because you empaths, all of us, are such beautiful. Is your ACIM group free to join? Yes, it is. It is free to join. There is no cost to it. I just go live in the morning and live in the afternoon. I was just added to this. Can you tell me what it is about? Sure. We are talking about a new way of viewing empathy. I'm so excited for you. I saw your post about your acceptance of the submission for the camp. Yes, it was very exciting. I can't wait. Oh, goodness, I can't even wait. June can't come fast enough, but this gives me plenty of time to get all my materials together and so forth and so on. Of course I will, Karen. I'll send you the link to my ACIM support group. No worries. It's just where we go over every day. We go over a lesson. We read the lesson. We talk about the lesson. And then during the night, we come on after we've practiced, and we kind of, I just kind of give you different tips, tools, tricks. We kind of talk through the lesson if there wasn't something that you readily understood. So that's what we do on ACIM support group. And anyone is welcome to join. I can put the link here for you guys if you would like to join. Absolutely free. There's no cost. The only cost, no, there's not even a cost for the book, because that's something I have for free for you guys. I love this discussion, Ron. Great way to explain positive outlook of empathy. Thank you so much. It's just something that I really felt needed to be talked about. I love, because all of us are empaths, all of us are that truth. Wow, you don't heal pain by going into the delusion of pain with them. Yes, I see that you are suffering, and that is this too will pass. Be the compassionate observer. Exactly, that's it. Just be that compassionate observer. And like I said, in being the compassionate observer, that's going to allow spirit to use you. Because you're not judging it. You're not saying this is what has to happen. This is what I have to do. You are being completely at the disposal of spirit. And that's what my goal every day is, to be that empty vessel for which spirit to flow through. So that way people can get those messages, whatever those messages may be. I just summarized what you've said. Taking notes. Wonderful. I am glad that you are taking notes, that you are finding this to be very useful. So, the clearest proof that empathy, as the ego uses it, is destructive lies in the fact that it is applied only to certain types of problems and only to certain types of people. This it selects out and joins with. Ron has the best way of explaining ACIM, everyone. For me, it's hard to decipher and understand, but Ron explains it in a way not only to understand, but also learn. Oh, thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you. So with this, it's saying that that spirit uses, or the ego uses empathy to be our destruction, to put us into, like I said, to put us into specialness, to be like, oh my God, I'm so sensitive, I can't do this. And I'm, kind of putting us in that victimhood role as well. That's another thing that the ego loves to use empathy for, making you a victim. You are not a victim. You never were. You are powerful because you have a capacity to feel someone where they are. Put yourself in their shoes, not in their suffering, but in their shoes, and still be the presence of the alternative. And still be like, yes, I can totally be where you are right now. Like, I totally get it. And I'm going to be here with you. And maybe you will say words. Maybe you won't. But we allow ourselves to be open as much as possible. And, like I said with my story, there have been other times when I have been asked, if you will, by spirit, put in situations where I could use, because we always have the choice of love or fear, the ego or spirit, to guide us in any kind of situation. And I can tell you, there have been times, and you can ask Amanda, you can ask Shirley, you can ask Cynthia, you can ask anybody who has had a reading with me, that when it comes down to it, yes, you may cry, but I am right there holding your hand compassionately, but I'm not going into the suffering with you, because I know that's not going to serve you. Do I sometimes want to cry with you? Of course. But then I hear spirit in my head, and it's like, no, we're going to join with them. I'm going to join with them. So you're welcome. I only speak out of my own personal experience with my friend. Oh, thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Shirley. Yes, you may cry, and, my job is not to join in that suffering. My job is to be that presence of the alternative and to compassionately guide you to seeing something new and, seeing the breakthrough. That's what I'm there to do. But if I join in the suffering with you and be like, poor, pitiful you, am I being of service? No, I am being a disservice to you. And I'm being not only a disservice to you, I'm being a disservice to myself. Because in doing that, I'm joining in your suffering. And that's not what I want to do. I want to help you to realize that the only reason that you may be suffering is because of the thoughts, the beliefs, the things that are there. And I can't help you through them if I'm joining with you in that. I can't. It's not possible because I don't have a clear view. I don't have spirit guiding the way. Yes, and you have done that a few times for me. You are welcome. So Shannon says, please pray for my granddaughter. She is on her way to the hospital. Oh my goodness, the children's ward. Well, let's all take a break from this beautiful spiritual discussion and let's use all of this. Let's be the presence of the alternative for Shannon. Let's be that. And for her granddaughter, let's do that right now. And if you don't believe in prayer, that's okay. You can do this as a visualization, but I want everyone to join together. And I just want you to close your eyes. I want you to take a deep breath. And I want you to join with me in being the presence of the alternative, because I'm sure that Shannon is in a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, a lot of just, a lot of stuff. So let's be the presence of the alternative. This is our moment to stand up and say, you know what? And if you don't want to use these words, that's okay. Like I said, you can visualize, but we can say, dear God, our dear friend Sharon and her granddaughter are headed to the children's hospital. And our dear friend Sharon is in a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, and a lot of worry. And we are willing to recognize that you did not create worry, anxiety. You did not create dis-ease. You did not create illness. We are here to stand and see the light inside of Shannon and inside of her granddaughter. We are willing to see them whole, pure, perfect. We ask that your divine peace now lay upon both of their minds, upon both of their bodies. And we ask you to assist in the healing of their minds, in the healing of their bodies, in the soothing of their emotions and their souls. We ask this as a group, as one. We ask to see the truth of Shannon and the truth of her granddaughter, which spirit they are. Free of all limits, safe and healed and whole. They are free to forgive and they are free to save the world. Because there is only the power of God. There is only the presence of God. There is no other power. Therefore, worry, anxiety, pain, fear, illness are not real. And in the presence of light, which we all are, including Shannon and her granddaughter, there can be no darkness. Therefore, I now command that these effects be lifted. And so just feel that, feel that for yourself. And not only for, send that, be there in that energy. Notice we're not joining in the suffering. We see that you're suffering. We see the anxiety. We see it all, but we are not going to dive into it. We are all going to stand here as the presence of the alternative, seeing you both as happy, healed, and whole. And I thank you so much, Shannon, for coming on and allowing us to do this with you. Notice I didn't say for you, but do it with you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So that is a perfect example of how we can join. Number one, join with someone else who is in anxiety, who is in fear, who is in worry, and still be the presence of the alternative, and still be loving, still be kind, still be all of those things, still be loving, still be kind, still be gentle, but say, no, I refuse to see, I refuse to understand that, I refuse it. Just basically saying, I refuse it. I am so glad. See, this is part of being the presence of the alternative. And actually, I want to use a story with, a story that I actually used with Shirley. And Shirley, I hope you don't mind me sharing this story. Shirley was a part of a course that I had done. Kind of going through like 15 weeks of A Course in Miracles, but doing it basically just kind of going over the overview. And there was one day that she had come on and she had a headache. And she was like, oh man, I just got this pounding headache. And I said, that's okay that you have this pounding headache. I said, number one, I'm super glad that you just still decided to join us, because it was her and some other people that had joined, we were all joining together in this course. And I said, I'm super glad that you decided. And I said, and now you're going to realize, that, what was it? I said, now that you are in the presence of love, your headache's going to go away. And Shirley can tell you by the end of the call, and the call was an hour, and she did not take any Advil. She didn't take any pain reliever. She was like, no, I'm good. By the end of the call, her headache was gone. Because we all stood. We didn't say that, Shirley, we're going to see you suffering. We said, no, we refuse to see you suffering because we know that that is not real. We know that is not the divine will. We know the will is for you to be happy. And bing, bang, boom. Guess what happened? End of the call, Shirley's head felt better. I don't know about after the call, but I know that she felt better. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Tori, for sharing that with her. Thank you. So that's what, we have to do. Right then, right there, we have to say, no, I see that you're suffering, but I'm not going to go into the suffering with you, because healing does not happen just because you go into suffering with someone else. That's not how healing happens. The healings that I do, they're a little, of course, they're different. They're not, typical stuff, but, they are powerful. Exactly. God creates miracles. And Shannon, you know what a miracle is? It's a shift in perception from fear to love. That's all a miracle is. And if you can shift your perception from fear to love, guess what? You're going to see that miracle. Now, when it comes to miracles, God only works at a level 10. And, let's go ahead and, Shannon, for you, set your goal as peace. Don't set your goal as anything else. Holy Spirit, and if you don't want to use Holy Spirit, you can use guides, angels, whatever you want to ascribe to your higher power. But Holy Spirit, my goal is peace. Hi, Margaret. Thanks for joining. So, yeah, that's what happens when the Spirit just kind of comes over you. Healing does, yes, exactly. So, oh, wonderful. But that's the power of all of us. I mean, just 15 people. And whoever else may watch this on the replay, it's that wave is going to keep coming. It's going to keep coming. So, yes. So if there's any questions, concerns, comments that you guys have about today's talk, feel free to ask those questions. Ask them. That's what I'm here. I will do my very best to answer them to the best of my ability. But we have such a beautiful example with Shannon. You can see the power that we have to begin that healing by not joining in the suffering, seeing it, recognizing it, but refusing to go into it. A miracle is a shift in yes. That's just another thing that I've learned from reading the text of the Course. That's all a miracle is. It's a shift in perception from fear to love. So once again, questions, comments, concerns that come up with this topic that we just talked about. Once again, didn't say that you can't feel the emotion. Didn't say that it's not going to touch you. But we don't go into the suffering. We recognize it, we see it, and we become the presence of the alternative. And I want to make that so clear. This is not about you not feeling. This is not about you shutting yourself down. This is actually about you showing up even more. That's really what I feel this is about. It's about you showing up more, you being willing to show up, and you being willing not to interfere and not judge a situation and judge what you should do or how that you should do it. So that's what we have to really remember, is it's asking us to show up. So like I said, I am here for your questions and comments, concerns based on this topic. Well, I am always here. I'm either here or on ACIM support group or reading A Course in Miracles. That's where I am. I'm so glad that we were all able as one in whatever way that we practice, visualizing, prayer, meditation, whatever, to really see that. To be there for you, to be the presence of the alternative, to be the miracle. So, oh, wonderful. Shirley, you're good. Wonderful. And I'll actually be seeing you, Shirley. I'll actually be seeing Shirley and Helena here soon because I will be going over to my ACIM support group to read or to go over our lesson for today, which was lesson 11. How poignant. 11:11. So, yeah, we were on, so it's 1. And then today is, the 11th, and we're on lesson number 11. So, like I said, questions, comments, concerns for our topic. Yes, see you in 15 minutes. But questions, comments, concerns about this topic. I am here for them. I will do my best to answer them to the best of my ability. And these perceptions have just, I'm just reading you from A Course in Miracles and just kind of translating how I feel about it, how I personally see it. Yes, I will. As soon as we get off of here, I will send you that link. I see 11:11 all the time on my digital clock. That's wonderful. You're on the right path. You're going in the right direction. It's always to me, that's always what it's assigned for. So I'm just seeing if there's any questions. If not, this has been a beautiful discussion. I'm so happy that I got to come on and do this. And then my next discussion, I will see you in 15 minutes unless I get called to interpret. I'm at work. All right. Well, if that happens, that's okay. But our next topic for next week, which will be on the 15th, is do you want the problem or do you want the answer? Why are we afraid of the answer? We believe, okay, never mind. Those are my notes about it. Why we think we want or need the problem, and where does the solution really lie? So that is going to be next week's topic. I will be live on the 15th. Of course, I'll put out my poster. Oh, the link that Karen is talking about is the link to my ACIM support group. If you're not part of it, it's just where I go on every day at 8 a.m. I read A Course in Miracles lesson. I may give you some pointers. I may say something about it, or sometimes I just read it. Sometimes I give you the example and do it myself. Or do that lesson, kind of live with you guys. And then I go live again, usually at 8 o'clock at night, where I go over the lesson. We talk about it. We talk about what came up for us during that lesson. And I do my, and I kind of interpret it and help you through it to the best of my ability. So I will post that link here if you guys are interested, if you want to join me. Yes, it is posted here. I do have that link posted here, but I will post it again to next week's topic also. Sounds like another good one. Yes, it is another fabulous lesson that I got to look at, and I really enjoyed it. So I thank you all so much for being here, so much for joining with me, because that was, you guys saw the power that we have as coming together as one and saying no to suffering. So thank you.